everyone, my name is Sabrina and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to learn how to make this wonderful blanket. So I will see if I can show you a little bit more up close. The stitches definition on here. This is an amazing 3D blanket, you guys. There we are. I hope you can see just how 3D it is. It is super soft, super squishy. And here is the edging, like little shells if you like. And it's a very easy edging to make. It's only a 2 round edging. So I will show you that, of course. But this blanket is a 4-row repeat. So there's 1, this is the second, then 3 and 4. And there we are. Initially we will do a 2-row setup, and then I will show you the 4-row repeat. And then you just carry on your blanket with the 4-row repeat until it's long enough. And then I will show you how to do the edging. So look at this, you guys. It is completely 3D. I don't know if you can see it really well. It's really difficult to show this on camera. But look at this, you guys. I really like the effect, and it is not that complicated. So normally I wouldn't hesitate and say that this is for advanced, but I guess this could be for beginner advanced, because you just have to watch the video and it's really not that complicated. If it was just in written form, I would say definitely just for advanced. But otherwise, if you just watch this and follow the instructions, I'm sure you'll be able to do it. All you need to know what to do are double crochets, front post double crochets, and if you don't know how to do a front post, don't worry, I will show you. And for the edging, you just need to know how to do the single crochet and a double crochet and slip stitch. Well, that's it. So I will pause now and I will discuss materials. We will discuss now materials, and before we do, I think I've decided on a name for this blanket. I think I will call it Soft Peaks Blanket, because they look like little peaks, don't they? Like little snow peaks, or just little peaks, I think. I'm not too sure what to call it, to be honest, but I've seen other names on the internet which I want to try and avoid. But I think soft peaks, because it's soft and little peaks. What do you think? Should I call it the Soft Peaks Blanket? Okay, so materials. I am going to use some DK, just regular DK, but of course you're more than welcome to use any type of yarn. All I would recommend is that you use the intended crochet hooks for the yarn. So I am going to use a 4mm, I don't know if I can show you this too close. It is not very clear. There we are. 4mm crochet hook. And I have a little trick to share with you, especially with that blanket, because there is a little difficult moment if you are a complete beginner, that you might need this trick until you're fully comfortable. I will highly recommend that you get a couple of stitch markers. I've got my little thing here where I keep most of my stitch markers all around here, and my needles, my darning needles. I've got several sizes. This one's a really kind of small-ish one, And this is for when I put on some buttons, because the holes are not big enough for the bigger needles. So I have a smaller needle for the buttons, but it's small enough to go through the holes and yet big enough for the yarn to go through the eye of the needle. So there we are. This is my little leaf which I made. I haven't even got rid of this end. I haven't, and I've had this leaf for a few years. But there was like a little Irish leaf. Okay, so I'm going to pause and we'll get started. So before we need to start on this blanket, we need to discuss the multiple number of stitches. So in this particular case, it's going to be a multiple of 4 stitches plus 3. So I am going to do so multiple of 4 times 5 is going to be 20 plus 3. I'm going to do 23 chains, and at the end we will have 21 double crochet. And then I will explain about this little graph that I have made, because I think sometimes graphs do help as to how you work out certain stitches. So I'm going to start round 1. So I know I've just said round 1, but it should be row 1. I'm sorry. I've been doing a few things in crochet lately that were worked in rounds. So I have to get back to the row, because this is worked in rows, you guys. So I am not going to do the full size blanket with you. I am just going to make like a sampler, if you like. I'm going to do a swatch or whatever you want to call it. But of course, like I mentioned before, if you want to make it a lot bigger to whatever size you want, all you have to do is a multiple of 4 plus 3 for your initial chain. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 23 chains. So we'd be, oh, I don't think this is close enough, is it? Let's try and do this a little closer. Okay. So we're going to start with our slip knot, and there are various ways to do slip knot. So this is how I do mine. I don't know if you can see it well enough, but there we are. I put around my 2 fingers like so, or even just the one, it doesn't matter. Put it around, and then with a crochet hook you go in this little loop, catch the yarn, let go of the yarn of the finger, and then just tighten. But don't tighten it too tight. You want it loose enough so it can just move around on the hook like so. And to do a chain, you just have to yarn over and pull the yarn through. I don't know if this was close enough. I'll try. It's not focusing, is it? Oh, here we are. Yarn over and pull through. That's 2. I'm going to go back down here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay, so now that we've got our chain, of course yours, I imagine, will be a lot bigger than mine. I am just working on a little sampler. So in the fourth chain from the hook, we never count this loop as a chain. We will begin with that first chain right next to the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. We will do a double crochet into this chain. And to do a double crochet, I don't know if this is close enough still. Here we are. We yarn over 1, 2, 3, 4 into that chain. We yarn over, we insert the hook into the chain, then we yarn over and pull through. We've got 3 loops on the hook, and we're gonna yarn over and pull through 2. We've got 2 loops left. We yarn over and pull through 2. And this is our first double crochet made. Into the next chain we're going to do a double crochet. And into the next chain we're going to do a double crochet. And you're going to proceed until you've finished your row. At the end of this row, personally, I should have 21 stitches. But depending on how many chains you've made, you should have an X amount of stitches, but it's got to be an odd number of stitches. So this is the setup row number 1. I will pause and I will see you in a moment to do the setup row number 2. Okay, so this is where we need the chart. To fully understand how this is going to work, we're going to have to look at the chart. We are going to work some front post double crochet clusters over 3 stitches. This first stitch and this third stitch. And I will explain where we're going to now need some stitch markers. Not everyone will need those, but I highly recommend them if you are a total beginner. Because when we work our front post double crochets in certain areas, when we finish this cluster, we have to work back in the same double crochet here and then to this one as well. So I will explain all this. This might sound a little bit complicated just now, but believe me, it's not that complicated. So without further ado, let's begin row 2 for this setup rows. So the second round, I keep wanting to say round, I don't understand. At the end of your row setup 1, you will have an X amount of stitches. I have 21 stitches here, 21 double crochets. At the end we will chain 3 and turn. And this chain 3 counts as a double crochet. So now we will begin our first cluster, which is right here on the second stitch. We will begin on the second stitch and we work in the row below. Okay, so here is row 2 of the second row setup. Okay, so we work a double crochet into the next stitch. We now have 2 double crochets. And to work the first cluster, we need to go right into that row, the first row where you began, and we are going to work some front post double crochets, but not completed because we're going to work a cluster. So in order to do that, we need to yarn over and insert the hook from front to back, just like so, and go right around. I'll do that again. I might do that a bit closer. Okay, so yarn over and go and to see that stitch here, you follow it right down, it's the second stitch below, and you put your hook from front to back and right around the post of that stitch, just like so. And then you grab the yarn and pull through. So you now have 3 loops on the hook. You yarn over and pull through 2, and then you leave it like that. And you're going to do another uncompleted front post double crochet into the same stitch. So yarn over and again put into the same stitch into the post, pull through and yarn over, pull through 2. So now you have 3 loops on the hook. And this is where you're going to have to do another front post double crochet. So what we're going to need to do now is skip that stitch and go into the next one and do 2 front post double crochet, but not completed, just like here. So we're gonna yarn over, don't forget to skip that stitch, just yarn over and again into the front post like so, yarn over, pull through and yarn over, pull through 2. Now you have 4 loops on your hook. We're gonna do that again into the same post, yarn over and into the post, yarn over, pull through and yarn over and pull through 2 loops. We now have 5 loops on the hook, and now we're going to close the cluster, which is just going to yarn over and pull through all the stitches all at once, and there we go. And I've forgotten to show you my trick, so I'm going to pause if you like, and I'm going to have to start that bit again. So after I've done a little bit of work up to now, let's say that you have started your cluster and you've got 3 loops on your hook now because you've only worked into that stitch. If you're a complete beginner, this is where my little trick might help you, because trust me, if you are a beginner, you will not understand where the stitches are. So you're going to skip that stitch, like I said previously, skip it, and then to the next one, right here, put in a stitch marker. You will understand why I am saying this after. And then, no, I think that will be enough. You will need 2 stitch markers very soon, I think, but not just yet. So into this one, into that stitch where the stitch marker is, you're going to work another uncompleted double crochets, just like so. 1 and 2. And now finally you've got your 5 loops on the hook. You're gonna yarn over and pull through all 5 to close your cluster. So now what we need to do is go back into the previous stitch. I've got a little bit of a sore throat. But see now, when you are a total beginner, you will not know what that stitch is. This is why it was important to use the stitch marker, because now you will know exactly where that stitch is. You just pull it here, pull it towards you, and you're going to do a double crochet on top of that stitch right where the stitch marker is. I hope you can see this. Okay, so you're going to do a double crochet right into that stitch here. You can take the stitch marker out if you like. There we are. Double crochet into that stitch. and you're going to do another double crochet in 2 stitches. So double crochet into the next stitch and another double crochet into the next stitch. And now we're going to begin another cluster. So we begin again to do our cluster, and to the stitch below from that one we're going to do 2 uncompleted front post double crochet. Before we do that, I'm trying to work out where we need to put our stitch markers. Yeah, no, we're fine with this one. Actually, I will do it now. So this stitch, we're going to do 2 front post double crochets. Once we've done that, you need to skip that stitch, and then into that stitch you need to put a stitch marker. Just like so. And don't lose that marked stitch. Okay, now back to the cluster. So right underneath that last stitch you made here, you're going to work your 2 uncompleted front post double crochet, just like so. Now we have 3 loops on the hook. So now we skip the next stitch here and we go into that one where the stitch marker is, and we're going to do 2 front post double crochets uncompleted, like so. 1, go back into it and do the second one, 2. And to close the cluster we just yarn over and pull through all 5 loops. And now you're going to get the stitch marker close to you up here, and in this top of the stitch you're going to do a double crochet. So essentially it is on top of that crochet here that we've done some front post. So 1, you can take the stitch marker out and double crochet into the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. So I'm going to do another cluster with you, and so if you need to put the stitch marker, you just go on ahead and do it just like I do. If not, you don't need to worry about it. As you will get more confident with this stitch, you will not need to use the stitch marker because you'll know exactly where the stitch is, where you need to put the double crochet in. So you're going to skip 1 stitch here and put the stitch marker into the next. Just like so. So we're going to go back to that last stitch you've made, that last double crochet here. You're going to go right underneath and do 2 front post unfinished double crochets, 1 and 2. And don't forget to skip that stitch here. Do not do anything into that stitch, and into that one do 2 uncompleted front post double crochet, 1 and 2. We now have 5 loops on the hook, so we yarn over and pull through all 5 stitches or loops. Now we take this yarn back here, stitch I mean, and you see where the stitch marker is. You're going to go right ahead in here and do a double crochet. Remove the stitch marker and do the double crochet, and double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and you're gonna do that right till the end of the row, and then I will meet you back there. So we are nearly at the end of this row, and you see where the stitch marker is again? You need to go back to it and do a double crochet. I'm going to take it off. Into that stitch you do a double crochet, and into the turning chains from the previous row you're going to do another double crochet, and that completes the setup row number 2. Now before we begin on row 1 of this pattern, I think I have forgotten to mention quite an important piece of information, that when I did my blanket, I can't even remember the measurement. I'm sorry guys, I'm going to have to get my measuring tape. Okay, so this blanket measures, the width of it measures about 63 centimeters, which is almost 25 inches. So of course I'm just working on a swatch with you, but if you want to work the width of this blanket in particular, I chained 95 chains, which gave me a nice number of 93 stitches, and that is 63 centimeters or almost 25 inches in the width of the blanket. So now we're going to do row 1. So we're going to do chain 3, and now and throughout this chain 3 will act as a double crochet. We're going to turn our work around and into the next stitch. We're going to see all the stitches now, they're nice and clear. You can see all the top of the stitches. In every single stitch we are going to make double crochets in every single stitch, like so, right to the end of the row. And you're going to do, when you get to the end of the row, you are going to do a double crochet on top of the chain 3. Don't forget the top of the chain 3, because this is a stitch. So at the end of this row I will have 21 double crochets, and it just depends how many stitches you've got. So if you are doing the same number of stitches as I did before, you should have a number of 93 double crochet. So I may as well just carry on right till the end of the row, because I'm almost there. And I will begin on row 2. Actually, I will pause. We are ready to begin row number 2, which will not be here, it will be this one. So to essentially begin this row, we need to exactly understand what we're going to do. So we are going to work our clusters. You see here how we did our first 2 clusters here? I would like this to focus. This is so important for you to understand. So these are our first 2 clusters. And where's my crochet hook? These are the 2 clusters. And the next cluster we are going to make is essentially in between them 2 clusters right here. So that's that one there. We're going to work it here. So they yes, I'm not too sure how to explain that bit, but it's work between them 2, and we're going to do that at every row of cluster rows, where we will work in between the clusters just like so. My explanations were not very clear here. My words are going They are, what is that word in between? Yes, I'm not too sure. Okay, I do know the word in French, but it will not help. You know what? I'm going to pause and I'm going to search. I am so sorry, you guys. I just could not find it at all, the word that I am searching for. So we will now begin row 2. And so we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And again, do not forget that this chain 3 acts as a double crochet. We're going to turn our work around and we're going to begin with, we're going to do 3 double crochets. So we will have 4 double crochet in total. So we're going to go right ahead into the next stitch. On top of it, we're going to do a double crochet. 1 and then another 2. 1, 2 and 3. Alright, so now we're going to begin our cluster. And if you still need a stitch marker, I will show you where to put it. You will have to go in the row below, right there, skip 1 stitch and go into the next one. Let's see if I can do this closer. This work here, be nice if it could just focus for me. Right, so maybe this will help. So that stitch here we don't do. We skip that stitch, and into this stitch right here we put the stitch marker. Right there. So now we put our hook back onto the loop. That's if you need a stitch marker, because you might not need it now. So you're gonna go, see under this stitch here, right under, in there, we're gonna do 2 unfinished double crochets. So here is 1. I'm gonna do another one. Leave it there. Skip this next stitch and go into this one and do 2 unfinished double crochet in the front post, right like so. 1 and 2. And to close the cluster, we're gonna yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on the hook. And now we're going to get this close there so you can see the stitch. There it is. And you're gonna do a double crochet into the top of that stitch right here. So there we are. And you're gonna do a double crochet into the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. And again, and as you can see, this cluster is between them 2 now. Right into there, the center. They are centered, really. There we are. So now the next one, we're going to do the same thing. If you still need that stitch marker, you're going to go in the row below and skip this stitch and go into the next one to put a stitch marker in, like so. And the last stitch that we made, that one, we're going to go into the one below and do 2 unfinished double crochet. 1 and 2. They are front post double crochet, that is. I'm so sorry, you guys. And we're going to skip that one and go into this one and do 2 unfinished front post double crochet. 1 and 2. And now we're going to have to close our cluster. So as usual, we're going to yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on the hook. We're going to bring that stitch back here so we can see it, and you're going to do a double crochet into it. And double crochet into the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. So I'm going to finish this row and I will meet you at the end. I'm about to finish my row. This is my last cluster that I made. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on the hook. And I'm going to bring this last stitch here with a stitch marker, and I'm going to put a double crochet on top of that stitch just like so. I'm going to remove the stitch marker and I'm going to put a double crochet into it. So now we've got two double crochets and chain 3 left. So we're going to go ahead and do a double crochet in the next 2 stitches. 1, 2, and a double crochet into the chain 3 on top of the chain 3, because this is a stitch. We do not want to leave it out. So this is what our work looks like so far. Now we're going to go ahead and begin row number 3. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and do a double crochet in every single stitch. And at the end of this row we should have, well, I should have 21 stitches, and if you followed how many stitches I recommended before, you should have 93 stitches, or whatever number of stitches you started with. You will have that number of stitches all the time. So I will carry on with the row number 3, and I will meet you at the end. So we're about to start row number 4 now. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Don't forget that this is acting as a double crochet. Gonna turn that work around. Well, that's embarrassing, isn't it? Like I said, sometimes in my videos the words come out in the wrong order. As they come out, I realize it, and it's too late. It's said, right? You can't unsay what you've already said. So, anyhow, we turn our work around. I am so sorry. So essentially what we're going to do is that first row again. But this is our row 4. And I will explain to you why right at the end of this row. So we're going to do a double crochet into the next stitch, and we're going to begin our clusters. So I don't know if you still need for me to show you where to put the stitch marker. If so, I'm going to do that. If not, you just have to ignore that bit. So we're going to skip that stitch that is on the previous row, skip that stitch, and into that stitch you're going to put a stitch marker on top of that stitch, just like so. Now we're going back to our work, and into that stitch right here, which is the second below, we're going to do 2 unfinished front post double crochet. So 1 and 2. I'm gonna go back there, ignore that stitch, just skip it and go into that one where the stitch marker is, and do 2 front post double crochet unfinished stitches. So 1 and 2. We now have 5 loops on the hook, and to close the cluster we're going to yarn over and pull through all 5 loops. Our cluster is now closed. So we're going to bring that stitch here, and we're going to do a double crochet on top of that stitch, just like so, and we're going to do a double crochet into the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. And now we begin the next cluster. I will do it without a stitch marker this time. Under this last stitch we made, we will go right underneath it, right here, and do 2 unfinished front post double crochet, 1 and 2. I'm going to skip the next stitch, and into that one we're going to do 2 unfinished front post double crochet, just like so. 5 loops on the hook, so gonna yarn over and pull through all 5, and back there we're going on top of that stitch and do 1 double crochet and 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So we're gonna do another cluster, 1, 2, and we're gonna miss that double crochet, and into the next one 2 front post unfinished double crochet, and close our cluster, and again our double crochets. So it does become like a second nature. As you can see, I don't need stitch marker in the end. I just there, this is how natural it is. I will show you how I work without my stitch marker. It does become second nature. It really does. There we are. Close this cluster, and then 1, 2, 3, and I will pause and for you to finish the row. So I'm going to finish row 4 with you. We have got 3 stitches left at the end of row 4. So I'm going to do my last cluster. So in the last stitch that we did, we're going to go right underneath and do 2 unfinished front post double crochets. So 1 and 2. Then we're gonna skip this stitch, and into that one we're going to also do 2 unfinished front post double crochet, 1 and 2. 5 loops on the hook. So we're going to close the cluster, yarn over and pull through all 5 stitches. So now we're going to go to the back of that stitch again. We're going to put a double crochet into it and a final double crochet on top of that chain 3. Okay, so that was the 4-row repeat. Them. There's a double crochet here, double crochet row, and then we work our front post clusters here. Then into the next row we did the double crochets on every single stitch, and then here we did the front post double crochet clusters, and you see how they work. This is how our work is looking so far, and the back of the work is like so, which is also 3D, and it's pretty neat, I think. There's a lot of texture into this stitch blanket. So you're going to repeat rows 1 through 4 until your blanket is big enough. I'm going to do maybe another 6 rows. No, maybe another 8 rows. I'm going to do 8 rows, and I will meet you there to begin on the border. So I finished my extra 8 rows, and in total I've done my setup rows, my 2 setup rows, and then I've done 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 rows in total. So 3 repeats of rows 1 to 4. And it is important to notice that you might think, hang on a second, my work is a little bit lopsided. It's going a little bit onto one side. It's okay, because you can just straighten it out and it becomes nice and straight. It is a very important thing to notice, but it's not crucial. As you can see, you can totally put it very straight. It is not a problem. So now we will begin on the border, and the border is only a 2 round repeat. So to begin the first round of our border, I will come a little bit closer to you guys. There we are. Maybe not this close. Okay, so I'm going to show you another trick of mine, because we're going to work with single crochets. And if you are a total beginner, sometimes it's hard to know where some of the stitches are, especially the first and the last stitch and middle stitches, because we're also going to work some corners. So we are going back to our last row that we did, and this is how it is. And we're going to turn our work, but not to the other side. We're going to work on the right side like this, with the right side facing us, which is that with the little soft peaks. This is the right side. We're going to turn our work to the side like this, and we're going to start our border. So to do that, we're going to chain 1, and this does not count as a stitch. And we're going to work in the double crochets here that we've done, like so. On the side of the blanket you will see the double crochets or chain 3s. We are going to work right into those. So into this first double crochet here, we're going to put 2 single crochets. So we're going to put our hook into this space there where the double crochet is, and we're going to yarn over and pull through. We've got 2 loops on the hook. Gonna yarn over and pull through 2. We made our first single crochet. And because sometimes it's really difficult to know what is the stitch, I'd like you to focus. Very important. See here, this is our chain. Why is it not focusing? Here's our chain, and here's our single crochet. We want to go ahead and put a stitch marker into our single crochet before we lose that one, so we'll know exactly where it is when we get back to the beginning. So into the same space, or you could go into that space instead, but let's not get too confusing. Into that same space, let's do another single crochet. We're going to move to that one here, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, and we're going to do that all the way down into that double crochet here, 2 single crochet, and into the next one right there we're going to put in 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, and into this one we're going to put 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, and we're going to do this all the way, and I will meet you at the end of this little bit here, and I'll show you what to do next. So I've come to the end of this little bit here. This is my last double crochet right there, so I'm going to do 2 single crochet in that one, 1, 2, and now we're going to turn our work around like this, so this bit is where the chain was made. So into this very first chain that we did, which is where the you see there, right there, this is the bottom of that double crochet. In this bit here we are going to do 3 single crochets, which will make the first corner. So we're going to do the first single crochet, there's 1, and the second one, we will mark it with a stitch marker, because when we come back around to do the second round we need to know where that middle stitch is. So we're putting a stitch marker right here, and this is to mark where the middle of that corner is. So we're going to do a third single crochet in the same space. Here we are. So now we have done our first corner, and what we're going to do now is do a single crochet in every single chain here that we started with. Single crochets. So I will carry on, and I will meet you almost at the end of this row. We are almost at the end of where the chain was, and we've done all the single crochets. So we've got one final chain left, which is here, and we're going to do a corner. We're going to do our second corner. So we're going to do 3 single crochet in that last chain there. So we're going to do 1 single crochet, our second single crochet, and right here to mark the center of the corner we're going to put in a stitch marker. This is not going to go anywhere, and we will know exactly where the center of that corner is. And we're going to do another single crochet in that same space. And now we're going to flip again to the next side, and we're going to do what we did before. We're going to do 2 double crochets at the end of each double crochet. Right here in this space we're going to do 2 single crochet, 1, 2, and into this next space right here we're going to do 2 single crochet, 1, 2, and into this next space we're going to do 2 single crochet, 1 and 2. And when you finish this bit, you're going to go back here No, in fact, I will meet you there, and then I can show you what to do next. So I finished this bit, and I've only got one double crochet right here left. So we're gonna do 2 single crochet, 1, 2, and on top of that chain 3, before this double crochet here, should be the top of the chain 3. On the top of that chain 3, it's a little bit difficult to see, but it's right there. We will do 3 single crochet in that little bit here, right here, before this double crochet. So in here we will do 3 single crochet, 1, 2, and in that second single crochet we will put yet another marker. That's just to mark the middle of the corner. We will know exactly where the corner is. So in that same space we need to do another single crochet to complete the corner. Okay, so now we're going to work on the last side right here where all the top of the double crochets are. And so in every single stitch we're going to put in a single crochet. Single crochet on top of single crochet on top of every double crochet and cluster. We must not miss the clusters, but you will see all the top of the stitches right there. So I will finish this little bit right with you. I'm continuing the single crochets. And we will complete our 4th corner. When we get to the last double crochet, we will have to do our last corner. Now we're getting close here. Here we are. This is the top of our last double crochet. So we're going to do 3 single crochet. 1, 2, and right at the second one we will put in a stitch marker, because it's so important to know where the middle, the center of the corner is. I'm going to do a 3rd single crochet in that same space, and now we're going to slip stitch to our 1st single crochet right where the stitch marker is, right here. And we will be ready to do the 2nd and final round of this border. Okay, to begin the 2nd and final round of this border, we're going to chain 1, and you see where the stitch marker is. We're going to get past that and go to the next stitch and do a slip stitch into it. And now it is important to note that the stitch repeat of this final border is a multiple of 3 stitches. So when you work this border, you will work on 1, 2, 3 stitches, and 1, 2, 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. So it's a multiple of 3 stitches. But if you get to the end of the row and you see that it's not 3, it will not matter. I will show you what I mean. So on to here where we did our slip stitch, on this stitch here, what we're going to do now is chain 2, 1, 2, and into that stitch right here we're going to put in 2 double crochets. So 1 and 2. And now what we're going to do is we're going to skip 2 single crochet. We're going to skip that one and that one. Oh, I am so sorry about that, you guys. I think I was too close to the camera. Right, so we're going to skip that one, and into the next one we're going to slip stitch. Slip stitch. And we're going to do that again. We're going to chain 2, and into this same stitch we're going to do 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And we're going to skip 2 stitches, and into the next one we're going to do a slip stitch. We're going to do that again. Chain 2, and into this same space here where we slip stitched, we're going to do 2 double crochet. 1, 2, and we're going to skip 2 stitches, and into the next one we're going to slip stitch. And we will do that, and I will meet you almost at the end of this little bit. So I'm almost at the end of the first side, and we have to count the stitches that are until the stitch markers, and I've got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you see, it's not a repeat count of number 3 like I said. It really will not matter one little bit. So you're going to chain 2, and into that same stitch here we're going to put in another 2 double crochet. 1 and 2, and instead of skipping 2 we're gonna skip 3 and go right into where that stitch marker is and slip stitch. We can now remove that stitch marker. We will not need it anymore. And now we flip it around so we can work onto the second side, and we're gonna chain 2 and do 2 double crochet in that same space that we slip stitched into. So 1 and 2, and we're gonna skip 2 stitches and slip stitch into the next one. And as you can see, the corner looks fine. It doesn't matter whether you skipped 2 or 3 stitches, it still works out okay. So what we're going to do now is chain 2, and into the same space where we slip stitched we're going to do 2 double crochet. 1, 2, and we're going to skip 2 stitches and slip stitch into this one. And we're going to do that right to the end of this little bit, and I will show you what to do next. So I'm almost at the end of this side, and once again, instead of having 3 stitches here, I've got 4. So I'm going to go right ahead and continue. Chain 2, and in the same space put in 2 double crochet. And instead of skipping 2 stitches, I will skip 3 and go right into that stitch marker where the middle of that corner is. I'll slip stitch into it, remove stitch marker, and I will work on this corner. So chain 2, and in the same space I will put in 2 double crochet. 1, 2, and skip 2 and put in a slip stitch. And we're going to go ahead and complete this side, work the corner. If you need to skip 3 stitches instead of 2, go right ahead. Or sometimes if you have just a 1 stitch to skip, that's okay, just skip just the 1. It really does not matter. It's up to you what you want to do. The corners will look perfect. And then you will do that side, and I will meet you almost at the end of this one. We are almost at the end of this blanket. This is the last corner that we will work into, so we're going to chain 2 and into the last stitch where we did the slip stitch we're going to do 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, and we need to count again 1, 2, and we don't have the 3 again. I've got 4, so I'm going to skip 3 stitches and go right ahead in that corner stitch. I'm sorry you guys, that was the post. So we're going to slip stitch into that stitch, and we're going to chain 2, and into that same space we're going to do 2 double crochet, 1 and 2. And now we're going to skip 2 stitches and into that first stitch where we put in the stitch marker, you see, we're going to slip stitch into it like this, and we're going to remove the stitch marker. I'm going to slip stitch there to close the round, and we're going to chain 1, cut our yarn, leave a nice tail so you can sew it in, and we're going to just let it go like this, boom, and it's complete. Our blanket is now complete. You just need to sew in the ends. I will zoom out, and this is what it looks like. There we are. Our blanket is now complete. So this is what it looks like. There we are. It's really nice and 3D. I just really enjoy making that blanket. And you could make it with several colors. So you could change color every 2 rows. So you complete your 2 rows, your second row that you have to do 2 rows in 1 color. The first row is the double crochet row, and the second row is where you do the double crochet clusters, and the next row you can change color, and like this maybe you could do it every 2 rows, every 4 rows. It's up to you. You can be as creative as you want, or just do in 1 color like I do. There we are. This is the back side, which again I am a fan of it as well because it's just as 3D as the front. Do you see? The front is 3D, but so is the back. I really like it. I hope you like it too. I hope you've enjoyed watching this tutorial. I hope it's been easy and clear enough for you to follow. Please like the video, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, and next to the next to the subscription button there is a little bell. Click on it. It will inform you whenever I publish a new video on YouTube. And also post your comments. I love reading comments. I really love it. I enjoy reading comments, responding to them, and you could even write suggestions, questions, or any comments that you want. I'm always happy to read them. So here we are. The blanket is really completed, and really hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, happy knitting and crochet!